All right, Alex, thanks for joining me for the Thought Leadership Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, our head of partnerships at DealMachine. On these, we really like to shine a spotlight on industry experts and these thought leaders who really have these, inspiring stories, personal stories they can share, and really educate our audience on lessons they've learned and how they really see the world evolving. So today we have Alex Pardo, who recently sold a successful wholesaling business, runs the flipempire.com, podcast and course and coach and Facebook group, mastermind. Am I missing anything else or?
You pretty much got it, brother. You pretty much got it.
Nice.
So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Yeah. And today, I know in previous conversations, we've talked about life design. We've talked about building a network, building a team. So I'll have a couple questions for you around that today. But
okay.
To start off, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about your story and really kind of what got you here today?
Yeah. So, my parents are from Cuba, and my sister and I were the first ones born in Miami. So obviously we have come from Cuban background, and, I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family, Matt. In fact, I'm the first entrepreneur in our family. And for me, it kind of went back to, I remember when I was around 12, 13 years old, I grew up playing baseball. So I spent a lot of time at the park with my father, and I would buy, sell, and trade baseball cards. Like that was my hobby. That was my thing. And little did I know that I was kind of learning the basics of entrepreneurship, buying low and selling high. Yeah. And fast forward about 7, 8, 9 years, I got into college, and I don't know if it was a prestige thing or an ego thing, but around that time when I became a junior and then senior, one of my goals was to be like a CEO or a CFO for a big Fortune, like 5 company. And so I started interviewing with companies like Johnson & Johnson, General Motors, General Electric, and ended up getting hired by GE in their financial management program. So, I started working with GE, and it was not what I expected it to be. I found myself 3 months into this thing working 70, 75 hours a week. I was behind Excel and PowerPoint all day long. It was extremely boring. And I would look at my boss and look at her boss and all the way up the ladder to like the CFO, the position that I aspired to be in one day. And I just thought to myself, there's no way I want to do that. It's just not for me. There's no way that I can design the life I want and do what I want to do with my life and with my time working for someone else under somebody else's watch. So I finished that 2-year program. I went backpacking around Europe to kind of figure life out and just have some fun. I was single. And I was in an internet cafe in Ibiza. I'll never forget this because it was like a defining moment for me. A friend of mine sends me an email inviting me to a marketing for deals boot camp that was going to take place the following month in Atlanta. And it was $997. At that time, that felt like all the money in the world. I had essentially financed this 3-month backpacking trip on my credit card. And, but I decided to ultimately take the leap because I was moving back home to Miami. Full transparency, I was moving back in with my parents at 25 years old, single, just not the best look. And that was motivating me. I'm like, I got to do something with my life. I know I want to start a business, and I enjoy real estate. And I started picking up books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. So dude, I went to that boot camp. I took a letter from the manual. I started mailing pre-foreclosures. And about 2.5 months later, I closed my first deal, which was 44 grand, almost what I made in my corporate job at GE.
Wow. There you go.
So,
yeah, I love how you think about life design. I mean, we've talked about that a little bit, but I think for our audience, whether you have a successful real estate business already or you're just trying to get into your first deal, I think kind of the shift in how you think about life design is applicable across the board. So maybe can you talk about that a little bit and where real estate investors really need to be thinking differently around life design?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to, the more purposeful and intentional, Matt, as an entrepreneur and as a real estate investor you are, the more clarity you're going to have about knowing what you want. Oftentimes I'll ask people I work with or people that, reach out from the podcast, and I just ask them a simple question. What do you want your life to look like? And I usually kind of get a blank stare. It's a tough question to answer because it requires a lot of thought, energy, and attention to like, what do I really want my life to look like? And I feel a big mistake investors and entrepreneurs make is that they're so focused on chasing deals, making money, trying to build the biggest building in town and scale the business is a word that's thrown around a lot. But yet they hustle in the pursuit of money. And then every other aspect of their life is average or suffering. And I think what I have figured out early on is that if I started with the end in mind, in other words, started with an entrepreneur doesn't define who I am. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a man first, and everything else doesn't, it enhances what I do, but it doesn't define who I am. And so I figured out that what do I want my life to look like? Let me start there. What's my purpose? What's my mission? And then how can I have my business enhance and essentially provide for the desired lifestyle that I have and fuel my mission, fuel my purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, when you ask people that question, why do you think that is so hard for people to define? Like, is there anything you can identify
Yeah,
that says like, this is really difficult? Or?
quite honestly, it's a very simple question, but at the same time, it's a difficult one to answer because
Mm-hmm.
I forgot who said this. I don't want to take credit, but somebody said, people spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their life. And
I believe that actually.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It takes a lot of time to think, hey, what do I really want my life to look like? And to have a lot of specificity behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people don't create boundaries around what they want. And yet they sacrifice all their time on, again, trying to make more money. And if you ask them, what's the end goal? They'll say, oh, I want to make more money. Okay, why do you want to make more money? Usually 9 out of 10 times I hear the word freedom. I want freedom. But what they don't realize is that they can have freedom. Most people are closer to freedom than they think, but yet they have attached this number out there. There's a number in people's heads, $1 million a year or X amount of dollars. And they think that they have to delay freedom. They have to pursue that number in order to have freedom. And what I have found is that if you simplify your life and your business, you can achieve and have freedom now while still pursuing the goals and aspirations you have.
Yeah, I love that. It seemed like, I know last time we talked as well, that you had quite a personal journey this year and coming to realize that, and had sold your business in June. So can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that journey and the things you had to overcome to make this shift in mindset?
Yeah, man, great question, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share that story. I know we're short on time, so I'll try to keep it as condensed and brief as possible. But in being in alignment and being authentic with the fact that I talk a lot about having a vision for your life, what I discovered was that my wholesaling operation no longer fit my vision. It no longer fit what I wanted. So I got involved in this business in 2005, was that first deal that I told you about. And, I've been very fortunate and blessed that this business has provided for me and my family, and it's provided a certain lifestyle. But quite honestly, the business got a little boring. I got tired of just chasing deals and running a wholesaling operation. And I knew something was missing in 2019 when I legitimately felt more joy and fulfillment from somebody reaching out to me, complimenting me on a particular podcast episode or a coaching client that I helped impact. I got more joy and fulfillment out of that, Matt, than closing the next big deal.
Yeah.
And so working with, because I have a coach, I truly believe in always having one hand down to a mentee, helping them, and one hand up to a mentor. Working with my coach and my mastermind, inner circle, family, I just got crystal clear on, like, was this business serving me? Was it making me happy? And the answer was not as much as it once did. So over the course of 6 to 8 months, I started the process of kind of unwinding the team that I had built. And I got to the point in June where I was able to transition and exit from the business so that I can focus on Ascend, which is our mastermind and coaching community. I could focus on the podcast. I'm not going anywhere. I still love real estate. I still think it's a fantastic vehicle, but I just didn't want to have to continue to feed the beast and this machine that I had created, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, while that's a really hard realization to come to, I think your journey to get there and your experience you had with your wholesaling business and how you can then relay that on to other people, that, that's been the foundation for your podcast and the mastermind and the course and everything else you're doing. So, it's easy to look ahead and maybe potentially try to skip some steps, but I do think your journey probably has built you up to where you are today and gives you even the opportunity to kind of make that shift. I'm not making too many assumptions.
I think you summarized it perfectly. And I think the only other thing I'll piggyback and add is that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we identify with what we do, like it becomes our identity. And had I not had a crystal clear vision and been able to ask myself and answer, hey, does this business fit that vision? Does it make me happy? I think I would have stayed in the business and we would have continued to be successful and have our ups and downs as any business has. But it was difficult initially because I was like, I have a platform and I have a voice in the space. And so, those doubts creeped in my head. Like, what would people think if I'm no longer active in the business and this and that? And so, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. You have to do what's going to make you happy. And what I have found is that now being on the other side of it, it's actually enhanced my platform. It's enhanced my voice. I think it's allowed me to become a better leader, better coach, better entrepreneur. And I'm just happier, quite honestly.
Yeah. I mean, in all of our interactions, I've always seen you, really fired up and excited. So I can tell that you're, pumped about this next phase. So, I do think so. One transition there, you talked briefly about like, hey, you're a big believer in mentors and mentees and kind of making that connection. And I know that's probably, you credit that as a part of your success and part of your life story there. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of that, especially for people just getting into real estate and maybe they have a small team and have done a few deals, maybe they are trying to get to their first deal. Like, can you talk about that entire process?
Yeah, no, I could talk a lot about that. And again, I'll try to be brief here, but I've always seen the value in personal development. And for me, it started with reading books when I was making the transition from being an employee in the corporate world to starting my own business. And one common trait I found with every biography I read, every successful person I studied, they always had counsel. They always had a coach. They always had a mentor. They always had, and then, I can give you the classic example of every famous successful athlete, Michael Jordan, LeBron, like these people all have people in their corner that are giving them guidance and counsel and wisdom. And in 2007, when the market was starting to turn, Matt, I made a big mistake. I got involved in lost about $51,000 on that deal. And up until that point, I always saw coaches and mentors as an expense. What I realized after losing $51,000 is that had I had somebody in my corner, I would have avoided that mistake. And it's actually an investment in yourself. Yeah. And the best investment you can make is not in real estate. It's not in stocks. It's not in gold. It's not in businesses. It's in yourself, because nobody can take away that knowledge, the experience, that guidance you have. And so, yeah, man, ever since 2007, going on 13 years now, I've been working with a coach. In fact, I have coaches for different areas of my life, and I attribute most of my success. Obviously, I had to do the reps, right? I had to do the heavy lifting, but without their guidance, without that wisdom and somebody in my ear, kind of showing me my blind spots, I know that I wouldn't be where I am today. And so, what I would share with your audience and people watching this is, do you view coaching, masterminds as an expense or as an investment? If you view it as an expense, I challenge you to just have a mindset shift about that, because you are the best investment you can make. And it'll change your life if you work with the right person.
Yeah. And it's exciting to see you yourself having gone through that journey and seeing the importance of it, starting your own and finding a passion to teach others yourself as well.
Yeah.
So, I think that all can be found on flipempire.com, right? All the, mastermind. Cool. Perfect.
Correct. Yep.
Do you think, one thing that I do hear often from people that maybe they realize they want to have, be mentored and, have a coach and that type of thing. Where do they really start? Like, where can they find somebody to be that role for them in their life?
Yeah. And honestly, that can be a challenging thing, because one of the benefits that we have with the day and age we live in is there's an abundance of resources out there. Just hopping on Google and you can probably get in contact with 20, 30 mentors and coaches. I would encourage people to really try to connect with the right person by finding out what their values are, finding out why are they doing what they do? Is it because it's just a lucrative business, or is it because their heart's in the right place and they really want to see people succeed? So I would say, first of all, get clear on what you want, right? What's the end? Try to have clarity around your vision for your life. What do you want your life to look like? What kind of business are you in? And then from there, you can go about the process of talking to people. I mean, there's no shortage of connections you can make on Facebook and other social media platforms, and find out who's in it for the right reason. And I'm not saying that if you have a coaching business and that's not your true passion, that's a bad thing. It's not. But I always like to align myself when there's core values, when there's a connection as far as purpose and just a type of people. And then from there, I will start to interview them as much as they'll interview me. So I wouldn't just go out and hire any coach, but I would put some time and energy and attention into trying to find the right person based on the values, and then based on somebody who's actually walked the walk. You want to work with someone who has kind of been there, done that. And like I said, can show you your blind spots. And so, So yeah, look, I'm the first to say that I might not be the best coach for everyone, but depending on what your, aspirations are, where you're at in your life and the season you're at,
Yeah.
I'm very clear on who I'm for and who I'm not for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And kind of imparting on your coaching wisdom there too. I know a good amount of people listening to this are probably, real estate investors, maybe wholesalers themselves. You've talked a good amount about like building a team and kind of your lessons learned, for doing that for 15 years or whatnot. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about what those early days look like and any other kind of common mistakes you see the real estate investors making when trying to do that?
Yeah, I mean, a big common mistake that I see people making that I made for many, many years, trying to do everything yourself. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And, when I got started in this business, I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur. I've always been a ready, fire, aim type of guy. And I just jumped into it and I was wearing all the hats. And that's a tough thing to do. So realizing that what you're doing when you're self-employed is that you're trading time for dollars. And when you hire the right people, you start to get back your time. And when you get back your time, sky's the limit. Now you can take advantage of the power of leverage, essentially. And so, man, my first team member that I hired, which was a virtual assistant, came in 2009. That's 4 years after I started the business. So basically for 4 years, I was hustling, grinding, and doing everything myself. But there's always a ceiling. I'm capped by time. So first of all, get clear on what your pain points are. Get clear on what are the things that take away energy that are non-revenue generating for you. Those are the first things that I always recommend you get off your plate. And I think something that I think will be helpful for somebody watching this, Matt, is I always like to ask myself 4 questions. Number 1, can I outsource this? Number 2, can I delegate it? Number 3, can I hire it out? Can I automate it? And number 4, can I just delete it? Like, is it something that I'm used to or accustomed to doing, but I don't really need to do? So outsource, delegate, automate, or delete. Ask yourself those 4 questions, and the things that you're doing that you don't enjoy should be able to fit into one of those categories.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that as well. Like I actually pretty actively try on Monday mornings to do my EADO system, which is eliminate, automate, delegate, and outsource. So
there you go.
There you go.
There you go. Yep.
Well, this was great.
And man, I could talk so much longer about team building and all. I've made tons of mistakes, but I'll answer any questions you have.
I was gonna say we might have to do a follow up with that being the whole focus there.
We could easily.
But yeah, do you have I know this was a shorter one today, but do you have any other parting advice there? And really, can you tell people how they can get in touch with you and where they can learn more from you?
Yeah, look, as far as team building and all that is concerned, I mean, one piece of advice I got years ago that has served me well, and I did the opposite for many years, is hire slow, fire fast. Right? For many years, it was a pain for me to do all these things. So I would just hire someone and then I would train them and put a lot of energy and resources into them. And then it was my fault because it just wasn't the right fit. That wasn't their skill set, or it wasn't a culture fit. And then the turnover, it took me a lot longer, and that was more painful. So hire slow, get crystal clear on what the roles and responsibilities are for the role, and take your time to find the right person that fits your culture and fits your core values. So that's just one quick thing as far as team building is concerned. Invest a lot of time into becoming the best leader you can be. Anything by John Maxwell is a great start. So if you're an entrepreneur, and chances are you are because you're watching this, then you need to work on that skill because it's a skill like anything else. As far as getting in contact with me, if you have any interest in learning about Ascend, which is our mastermind and coaching community, ascendyoursuccess.com is the best place to go. Or we can just connect. I have a podcast called The Flip Empire Show. If you go to flipempire.com, you can check it out there.
Perfect. Great, Alex. I appreciate the time today.
Thank you,
like I said, we'll have to do a follow-up on this. And then, hopefully everybody enjoyed this today. Thanks.
Would love it. Thank you, Matt.